Hi, I'm Deneen, and I'm glad you're here today. Today's activity is a literacy one, and the question that we're going to be contemplating is, do our students really need comprehension questions? We're at the beginning of the school year, and I always start as a fourth grade teacher with Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. And the students read it independently, and because not every student is at that reading level, I solve that problem by having them go to YouTube and find the people who have read it aloud, and then they just listen auditorily while they follow along, because it's too soon in the year to start my leveled guided reading groups. And it took us 2 weeks. Some students finished it in 2 days, Josie Bella, 1 day. Most were done by week 1, but there were several who it took us 2 weeks. And what do they do while they're waiting on their peers to finish? They don't just sit and wait, of course. I have other Judy Blume books ready to go. They all want to go on to Super Fudge, of course, but I hold them back because I use that series in guided reading groups. But they're so anxious to continue the story. But I have multiple copies of Blubber and Iggy's House, which Iggy's House is a very important story for this time. I looked, it was written in the 1970s, and we're having many of the same issues, heartbreakingly, still today. Blubber is timeless. We all need that book. It's not an easy read. It's a painful read, but an important one. So I have those ready for them. Or if they don't want to go on with Judy Blume, which most of them do, they can just read a dear book while they're waiting. They never just sit and wait. I'm done, so I have nothing to do. Always reading. But I only wanted to do 2 activities for Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing. You know, I like to really limit what I do with a book because I want to spend the bulk of our time reading. So I had them do a character wheel. Have you seen this activity? I forgot to bring one home for you, so I just sketched it out quickly. You put a character of your choice in the center, and then you as the teacher decide what you want to have for the spokes. For Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing, I had looks like, dislikes, friends, like if Peta was the character, Peta's friends, and a moment when Peter was mature, a funny moment, things like that. For looks like, you know, they draw a picture, and one of my students wrote in the box, I don't know, they never said what he looks like. So we have some work to do there with inferring and looking at clues that are given throughout the book. It's exciting to see, you know, this really becomes a formative assessment of what my students need. And then the other activity we did was a tableau. Have you heard of this one? Where the students are in small groups and they choose a scene that they don't act out, but they freeze. It's kind of like going to the Laguna pageant of the masters, where, you know, a painting it's a tableau. You just freeze one scene. And I have to say, you know, this was my first time doing it. It was not easy to just figure out from one scene what something was. Kane said, "Oh, it's like charades without moving." And yes, Kane, that's exactly what it's like. I was feeling very proud of myself the day we did this activity. Like, yes, this is really meaningful. This is really good. When Jane says, as soon as it's done, "Can we read now?" Yes, Jane. Yes. Excuse me, we can read now, because that's what we need to be spending the bulk of our time doing. And I made sure the next day that we started right at the get-go with "Can we read now?" I am a good reader. I do what good readers do. I predict. I ask questions. I change my predictions based on what I read. I reread. I make mental pictures in my brain, a TV of what is happening. Our struggling, developing readers don't do that. I hope you know that. They don't make mental pictures while they're reading. We have to teach that skill to them. And in spite of all of those things that I do to be a good reader, without fail, every time I look at a set of comprehension questions for any of the books that go with the books my students are reading, there will always be at least one comprehension question I can't answer. And I think, wow, I've really made a lot of meaning with this book. I have connected it to myself, to other books, to the world. I have embraced the meaning of it, And yet it is some random question that I don't know. And I always think, do I need to know the answer to this question? Is this important? Is it important for me to know what, Winn-Dixie ate for breakfast? I just, hence my question. Do we really need comprehension questions to gain meaning from books? So I ask very few comprehension questions. We do very few comprehension worksheets, maybe a few a year. We do other activities that I think are richer and deeper. Last year, my students, I noticed, were constantly noticing things. Lincoln. Mrs. Matsuda, I noticed this. Madeline. Zoe, constantly noticing things. But one day, Brandon said, Mrs. Matsuda, I noticed this. And he explained to me what he noticed. And a light bulb kind of went off in my brain. And I said, Brandon, we need to make an I noticed graphic organizer for guided reading time. He said, well, are you serious? I said, I'm very serious. I had to do a combination of drawing and typing because I don't know how to make lines on a computer. But this is all I did. The Brandon method. I noticed. And I made 4 rectangles. And each week for an entire quarter, I taught my students how to notice things. And I wanted to share with you some of the things. I don't let them notice superficial things. They have to be able to notice something and support it with a reason. Catherine said, I noticed that the story is fantasy because ducks don't go to school. That was, can you guess? That was Trumpet of the Swan. Zara wrote, Charlotte is proper like praiseworthy. Charlotte from Charlotte's Web is proper like praiseworthy from the Great Horn Spoon. I love that she compared 2 characters from 2 different books, but I didn't give her full credit because this was at the beginning, this was early, and she got much better at it because I wanted her to give an example of Charlotte being proper, an example of praiseworthy being proper. Jacob. He grew, he was an unstoppable California fire last year with his reading, and there is no stopping him. He has grown by leaps and bounds, and he was such a hard worker. He wrote, Joey didn't cry when he got stung by a bee. This was in 4th grade rats. He noticed, and then he added the reason why. Suds didn't want to be a rat because he thought the rats were mean and bad. If you knew what level Jacob started at the beginning of the year, you would know just how far he came in just that short amount of time. Let's see, Brady wrote, I noticed that Winn-Dixie and the kid are alike. I didn't give full credit for that because he didn't share how Winn-Dixie and the kid are alike. I noticed that when, this is Sign of the Beaver, Delilah wrote, when Atian leaves, he calls Matt his brother. I didn't even take points off for that one because she didn't explain it further because it was such a beautiful thing to notice. It just kind of, oh, beautiful. Again, Madeline, Winn-Dixie, I just gave her full credit for this because listen to this sentence. I noticed that Winn-Dixie smiled at her. A dog smiled at her. I thought that was a beautiful thing to notice. This was what else Madeline wrote, that all Kate DiCamillo's books have animals and there is a lot of description. That's one of the things she noticed. And the last one she noticed, that mostly he looked like a piece of old brown carpet left out in the rain. Such good description. A 4th grader wrote that. You know, I don't need a comprehension activity for Winn-Dixie. I really don't. Jaden, I noticed, the little bear, Indian in the Cupboard. I noticed that little bear is very picky because he will only eat meat. These are things that I let, that my students notice. The last one, Josiah wrote, I noticed that even though he is a toy, he is like a real life Indian because he needs bandages like a real person. Also Indian in the Cupboard. So last year, towards the end of the year, my good friend Katrina Miller came to me and she said, Deneen, I'm looking for some ways to infuse my literacy program. You know, what are you doing right now? And I said, I'm doing I noticed papers and let me show you. And so I explained it to her. And, she seemed intrigued and she said, well, yeah, this is good, but it doesn't seem like much, It's like just this, like just this for the whole week. And I said, it may seem that way, but, we want our students to spend the majority of their time actually reading. That's the main course is reading, and I think you'll find that it's a very valuable activity. So fast forward to this year, I now have her students, and my, I forgot to mention, I also have multiple copies of Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret for my ladies. Sometimes boys want to read the book too, but when I let them know the theme, they gravitate more towards Blubber, Iggy's House. But here is my copy of Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. It's falling apart, but it's just dear to me. And if you do band this book with your class, this little slip is a pivotal part of band this book from this book, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. But look what I found at Barnes & Noble this week. They have done a new edition of Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. It's leather bound, kind of like what they did with Hatchet a couple years ago. And so I've already bought 2 of these, and I'm sure I'll have to buy more. It just feels so satisfying to hold. But Corey is one of my girls who went right to this book. And she came to me this week, and she said, Mrs. Matsuda, I noticed that I think the character, I think she might be a Christian. And I said, what makes you think that? And she says, well, she's praying to God, and I think she just might be. And I said, well, Corey, you're going to have to keep reading to see if you can find some more clues. So she skipped on off to her desk and continued reading. The next day she came and she said, Mrs. Matsuda, I think I have an answer. I think she really is. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I noticed that they're talking about Jesus and Jews and no, they were talking about Jews, and Jesus was a Jew. Did you know that Jesus was a Jew? And I noticed that. Yes, I think she's a Christian, the character, and I said, Corey, that's what good readers do. And she said, well, yes, I did know that. We noticed things last year. Hooray, the angels started singing. This activity that felt like it wasn't very deep was indeed deep, so deep that it transferred from one classroom to the next. Would Corey have ever said, I remember this comprehension question that we did. It was really transformative, Mrs. Matsuda. No, she wouldn't have ever said anything like that. But when we teach our students to do what good readers do, notice, predict, things like that they can carry on and transfer. That I think is one of the highlights of my year. And we're only in the second week of school. How do we get our students to go deep? How do we get them to not just notice, I notice this is a book about girls because there are girls on the picture, surface. We have to teach them. And I will tell you that your I Notice papers, if you choose to do them or something like it, maybe you'll think of a variation. And if you do, please share in the comment section so we can all learn from you. But you will notice that they will get more and more detailed as you go. And if a student doesn't, support what they notice, I give the papers back to them so that they can improve them. But let me show you something that I found on Pinterest several years ago. I can't find it again, so I don't know how to give credit to the wonderful teacher who thought of this. But this is how this teacher teaches students to go deep. And it's a very beautiful illustration, and I use it in my classroom too. So you think of the ocean. What's on top? Or water. I guess there are not these in the ocean, but water. These float on the surface. Just surface knowledge, and give your students some examples of I notice surface things. We want to go a little deeper. What would we need to go a little deeper? And what would we find when we go a little deeper? On the top, we might find some kelp, We might find, what else would we find? Oh, pollution, sadly. Plastic, the great garbage patch. What else do we find on the surface? Oh, maybe some otter. That's exciting. Some seals, some buoys, some boats. That is exciting. But what happens when we go a little deeper? Well, we need some materials to go a little deeper, don't we? We need some, like our snorkels, and go a little deeper. What would we find if we went deeper? We would find some sea life. We would find fish and coral, beautiful fish. But it takes some effort. You can't just float on the surface and expect to find these things. You've got to get your tools and exert some effort. You've got to kick with those fins to go deeper. What happens if we go even deeper? A lot of effort. We might need scuba gear, weights. But what would we find way down deep? Way down deep. We'll find creatures that don't even exist anywhere but down in the deep. We might even find treasure. This was my mommy's treasure box she kept on her dresser. And we didn't have any jewelry to speak of in my family. But I could look for hours in this jewelry box and just examine her little brooches and pins and little special things. Treasure can be found when we go down deep. Deep, deep, deep. So let's teach our students to go deep. Did we answer the question, do we really need comprehension questions? I don't know, but I hope I've given you something to think about. So until we're together again next week, I wish you courage for the week to come, and thanks again for coming. Goodbye.